The information shared in this conference call and any subsequent discussion is intended for the invited participants only. This call is closed to the press and all press inquiries are handled through the Ginnie Mae Communications Office. If you are not one of the intended recipients, you're hereby notified that any dissemination, distribution, or sharing of this information is strictly prohibited. So welcome. Been a couple months since we've been able to do a modernization outreach call, and we've got some really great stuff to talk about today. So I'm excited that we're able to host today's session. I am told that the presentation has made its way to the Ginnie Mae website just in time for us to gather. So if you give me just a hot second, this one's fresh off the presses. I'm going to drop a link into the chat if you are interested in viewing today's presentation while we go through the content, okay? So give me just one hot second and I will drop that in the chat for anyone who would like to view the presentation offline, okay? Here we go, there it is. All right, sorry I didn't have that one queued up. It really did post right before everyone joined. So there you go. Okay, so hopefully that puts that question to bed. We are going to stop throughout the presentation periodically for questions, but you will notice that at the bottom of your screen, you should have a button for Q&A. You're welcome to type any questions that you might have in the Q&A at any point in time during the call. But if you'd like to ask your question via audio, we will stop periodically throughout the presentation so that you can do that, okay? All righty. Couple things real quick at the top of the call that I want to mention. Issuer training opportunities. We've been doing, offering more and more training that hopefully is just in time and on topic for you regarding a variety of topics that over the years you've told us you'd like to hear more about. I want to make sure that everyone is able to navigate to those training announcements. They're all on the Ginnie Mae website. But if you'd like to go look to see what's currently posted under the issuer training page on ginniemay.gov, you're going to see those training announcements. We've dropped the hyperlink here inside of the presentation for you to find later. But I do encourage everyone to subscribe to notifications via the Ginnie Mae website so that you get notified every time we post something to that page. A couple things that'll be coming up, one that's posted and one that's not. This time next week, we are going to have our quarterly issuer topical webinar series. We're going to talk about key pooling and reporting dates. Okay. So please mark your calendars, plan to attend, visit the training announcements page so that you can register for that session. It's going to be more of a brown bag style. So the presentation will be approximately 45 minutes with some time left at the end for questions. So we do invite anyone and everyone that's interested in learning more about key pooling and reporting dates in Ginnie Mae's program to go ahead and join us for that session. The other thing that I want to mention for my multifamily issuers on the line, we are going to be offering a new issuer training in April. Okay, so stay tuned and that's going to be the full-blown training for new issuers and new employees. We go over some of the fundamentals and then we focus on pooling processes and systems for 3 days, 2 hours each day. And the following week, we do our reporting processes and systems across 3 days, 2 hours each day. Those are beginner level courses and they are specifically multifamily issuer focused. So stay tuned if that topic content is important or relevant to you so that you get those training announcements once that's posted. Okay. Also, you'll want to tune in April. We will likely be hosting another modernization outreach call. that is going to go over Sf Pdm again, RFS expanded data again. So we're trying to stay in contact with you and give you the latest information that we have available on a variety of topics. But the other thing that you're going to hear about on that April call is our RSA soft token migration. We are getting dangerously close to being able to migrate to soft tokens. And so we'll have an update for those token holders on the April modernization outreach call. Okay. All right, that is all I have for random miscellaneous topics. Now we're going to jump into RFS expanded data collection. I've got Dan Botto and Patty Garcia here to talk about what's coming up. Dan?
Yes, thank you, Leticia. Hi, this is Dan Botto. We last talked sometime October about the RFS expanded data collection, and before you see my screen here, but I just wanted to let you know I'm with the OSO group. I'm the project manager for this project, RFS data collection. And I just wanted to let you know that it has been approved by OMB. Now, the purpose of the, when I say approved by OMB, we're about to issue the APM. We're in the process of actually preparing the APM right now, and hopefully we'll get it out in maybe 3 or 4 weeks altogether. So the purpose of this work really is to expand the Ginnie Mae data collection process to include 12 additional elements in the loan level reporting. And as you can see, that 12 data right now is divided into 9 new data elements for the loan record, 2 in the various records, and then we have also the removal reason codes. We've expanded that from currently 6 to 7, and we put in those definitions in the appendix 619, just so that everybody understands what it is. Now, before I go further down to our agenda here, I just wanted to say that the scope of this expansion really is more towards single family, multifamily, and manufactured housing. Okay, so the project, as I said a while ago, has been approved. The PRA has been approved by OMB, and hopefully we will have the APM coming out by next month. Now, further to that, this is a tentative schedule that we have right now. So as we said here, there will be a 9-month window for development here. And by November, around November, we expect to start implementing this. Now, implementation could be phased, and this could take till about 2023 in terms of full implementation. We're still discussing that period, but certainly we expect that this will start coming out in November, because we're going to be testing issuers. For further, again, I'll go back to why we're doing this. We're trying to do this because we wanted more accuracy in our RFS pull and loan accounting. It also gives us a lot more metrics, because our investor reporting, which involves capital markets, needed more information about the loan levels. So we're doing that, and that enables us to be able to also monitor our collaterals under the MBSA collateral pool. So that said, I want to shift to the next slide here to just give you a flavor of what these elements are. Would you switch to the next slide, please?
Dan, before we move to the next slide, we have a question from Sarah. She's asking, can you share the new removal code reason?
I'm sorry, repeat.
She wants to know the reason of why we're removing that code.
No, the removal codes are going to remain, okay? We are increasing the removal codes from 6 reason codes to 7 reason codes. we're expanding it a little bit because of certain projects, for example, forbearance projects that come in because of COVID, those kind of things. That's probably one of the reasons why we're expanding it. It gives us more flexibility. The codes will remain, and in fact, we're actually giving more definition and clarity to what the codes actually refer to in terms of the codes 1 to 7. Does that answer?
Dan, it's Letitia. I want to further clarify what I believe Sarah's question is. She's asking for the removal codes. Do we have those available, or will we be sharing those via an APM later?
We will be sharing it via APM, but
okay.
Let me ask one thing. Patty, do we have it in one of the slides?
We do, yes. So I'm really just about to jump in on that. So thank you for your question, Sarah. Yes, we do have the additional removal reason code in this deck. I believe it's in 2 slides. So this slide lays out the 12 additional elements, but if you go to the next slide, just one more slide. Yep. You'll see the last one here, special assistance, number 7. That is the new removal reason code and the definition included. But to Dan's point, this will also all be laid out within the new Appendix 619, which will be referenced in the APM.
Thank you, Patty. Right. So can you back
Dan,
up?
we have another question that came in.
Another question. Okay.
Yeah, so Susan liked to know if this will change the 11708 form.
11708 form. The 11708 form, I think, will remain the same unless there is a change that's required. But I don't think it's going to be changed at this point in time. I did not see that in our list of changes as far as the code is concerned, as far as that form is concerned.
So Susan, we'll go ahead and check to make sure that we're explicitly clear about the answer to that question, but right now it doesn't appear so.
Yeah, thank you. Any more questions before we proceed? Okay, great. As I said a while ago, there are 12 codes, 12 data elements here. You can see it in your screen right now. It's mortgage payoffs, buyouts. We actually changed some of the wordings here. For example, buyouts is a fresh word that we placed in here, replacing payoffs altogether. Then we have loan litigation. Everything here actually is existing in the in terms of the titling altogether. So these are the new elements that we're including in that expansion.
Yeah, thank you, Dan. Nicole, do you mind going back up one slide? I think that's what the additional, there you go.
Yeah, that's it.
These are the data elements that Dan's just been referring to.
Right. So these data elements will start appearing and the requirements will start coming out for this all together. Is there any questions so far? You'll get this all in the APM. We'll put this down there, and when we make the announcement, to make sure that everybody understands this and gives them time to be able to adjust.
Yeah, Dan, I think we have a few questions.
Yes.
That I can see in the Q&A. So Sarah, specifying the removal reason code. So Dan, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I do actually believe we are updating Form 11708. So that will be updated as part of the process to include this additional removal. The APM coming out in a few weeks, when will we begin reporting the new field? So that's a great question. Right now we have a tentative timeline. So the structure is development and testing over the next few months, with a issuer testing component that is likely to be scheduled around September of this year, with the intention on reporting the initial reporting within the December calendar month for the November reporting period. Those timelines are still, again, tentative at this point, depending on a variety of other, roadblocks that we may face. We do plan to reference that in the APM, as you'll see, and then there will be a follow-up APM with more specific instructions on the timeline and process for issuer testing specifically.
I just want to add, I was checking here on the APM on the approval. Yes, 11708 will be changed because it has to have the code 7 in there. So yes, the answer to the person that asked that question.
And there was additional question on testing directly with Ginnie Mae. What are the requirements? Have service bureaus such as Black Knight been made aware? So yes, we have had some conversations both with Black Knight and Sagent. So they are aware of these forthcoming changes. We've actually had a variety of sessions with them. So yes, they are very aware. And the testing will be both from a vendor or issuer perspective. So depending on your servicing platform, both. So if you use a vendor such as Black Knight, testing will be completed through Black Knight. If you have your own platform, you will be able to test directly with Ginnie Mae. Correct.
And to that, we also have been having meetings with the multifamily service providers like McCracken, so that they understand that this is coming. In fact, I have consistent communications with them via email. So we have talked to a number of the large servicers and service providers and the service bureaus about this. So, so when we lay it out, that they're aware of it. Now they need to get us, of course, into their testing schedule, development schedule. So that's why we're trying to put this out as early as possible to give people ample time to make adjustments.
Dan, I just want to take a second to check in with Christina Schneider. Did that answer your question? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Christina, for asking that question.
Dan, someone else is asking just to make sure that CENLAR is aware of this effort.
Yes, CENLAR, we also talked to CENLAR, okay? But if they're not, because we had a meeting with them, but if they need to discuss this with us, we're open to having them call us up all together. But we are definitely communicating with everybody else. That's why we're having this issuer modernization call right now to make sure that everybody is aware that this is coming down the pike. And then we will do another one in April, right, Leticia? We have another modernization.
Correct.
Yes, and we're in that schema set. Is there any more questions that I don't see anything in the Q&A?
Not at this time.
Okay. Oh, do we have provider contact?
Dan, Valeria is asking if they're who the POC at. Is it Ginnie Mae? Would that be you?
Yes, I would be the POC here. The contact persons would be me. And if you have any questions, it would be through Leticia. Leticia will funnel it over to me. Or if you all want, you can give me a direct call. Leticia, can they do that? Can they give me a direct call or email me?
Sure, they can. Yeah. What's your phone number?
Okay, phone number is 240-328-2751, or you can email me at daniel.batto@hud.gov, and I'll surely get back to you.
Okay, looks like, did someone, Sandra, Thomas, did you have your hand raised to ask a question? No, Nicole, can you unmute Sandra for a second in case she has a question to share?
She's unmuted right now.
Okay, Sandra, did you have a question? All right, let's continue.
Okay, somebody's asking phone number in the chat. We'll put it.
I'm dropping your email. It went into the Q&A and it is now about to go into the chat as well.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Thank you.
Okay. Dan, was that all that you had for us today?
Yes, that's it. That's it. Wait for the 8 p.m. It's coming out soon. Thank you very much, everybody.
Okay, before we move on, any additional questions? If you would like to ask a question via audio, please raise your hand at the bottom of the screen so that we know that you'd like to ask us a question. Otherwise, you are welcome to continue to type them into the chat. Okay, yes, Trevor, the recording will be posted to the Ginnie Mae website. So it was not asked already. I should have covered that. So thank you for being on your toes. Okay. All right. Okay, I don't see any other questions for Dan right now. So we're going to move on to Sfpdm. Hopefully you guys have already been made aware, noticed, got the notification, joined us on another call to learn that January 31st, we released an APM that kicked off an 18-month adoption window for our single family pool delivery module. Okay. So what does that 18-month adoption window look like? What have we been doing? What are we doing next? And what do you need to do are all very important questions that you are going to get the answers to here in just a second. Okay. As a reminder, this presentation is already available on the Ginnie Mae website. Okay. And the recording from today's call will be made available, on the Ginnie Mae website. So any information that you need to receive and repeat from today's call will be made available to you on our website. Here we go. We are super excited about this, you guys. Moving to a modern pool delivery module for our single family issuers is something that we have been working on and excited about for quite some time. We've already made the leap with our multifamily issuers, and we are really stoked to be able to move that direction with our single family issuers as well. So in February of last year, we released an application to the My Ginnie Mae portal called the Validation and Testing Tool, or VTT. Any users that already had a pooling functional role in My Ginnie Mae received access. And then org admins were also able to provision that functional role ad hoc for anyone that just needed specifically access to the VTT. What the validation and testing tool does is it allows you to test the pool delivery data sets that you've been developing that are MISMO compliant based on the PDD specs on the Ginnie Mae website. It allows you to test those pool delivery data sets you've been building to see if they pass our business rules, and thereby would successfully be submitted through the new Sf Pdm. That was done February of last year. So over the last year, you've had time to build, you've had time to test, but we've also heard you loud and clear, which is that for many of you, this was not going to become a priority until Ginnie Mae made that APM announcement. So the APM is out there. We expect that this will become a higher priority for many of you, and that you'll begin to transition to that MISMO compliant data set so that you'll be ready when we do roll out Sf Pdm. Okay, so what did that APM do? It kicked off an 18-month adoption window. During that 18 months, you will be given an opportunity to develop your PDD. And then in April, we will roll out Sfpdm, or I'm sorry, and let me back up. It gave you an opportunity and a directive to develop the PDD. You are immediately able to test that PDD in the VTT. And in April, we will release Sfpdm so that you can begin pooling in Sfpdm using that MISMO compliant PDD. And of course, I'm talking to my file upload issuers. If you're manual entry, there's no PDD for you to develop. Once we release Sfpdm, you can jump right in, okay? After Sfpdm is released, there's going to be a period in which you are expected to transition all of your pooling transactions into Sfpdm. I will note, there are some things that will need to be enhanced during that Sfpdm adoption period. So there is going to be iterative enhancements that will improve upon the application during the adoption window. And then we'll get into the final 6 months of the 18-month adoption window, where any issuers who have not already started delivering pools through Sfpdm are going to get a phone call. Okay, we're going to be reaching out to you using our support team and your account executives to get the ball rolling. Because once we get to the end of this 18-month adoption window in July of 2023, there will be a complete cutover. There will be no more pooling transactions submitted through GinnieNet. So there'll be a second APM released at that time and an MDS guide change to accompany it. But at that point in time, you will no longer be allowed to pool in GinnieNet. Okay. So hopefully that it is understood that while GinnieNet will be available throughout the 18-month adoption window, once we release Sfpdm, the expectation is that your organizations will be doing everything you can to migrate over to the new application and stay there. Okay. It would not be a good idea, nor would it behoove you to, go back and forth or to fight me on this one. Okay. This is not relevant to my HMBS issuers. There will need to be a new pool delivery module that would actually impact HMBS. So this is not for you right now. Okay. And there is no immediate impact to our document custodians. That GinnieNet cutover that I'm referring to, it ties directly back to pooling transactions in GinnieNet. The document custodians will continue to certify pools in GinnieNet, okay? We have a document custodian module that we will need to release, and when we do that, the custodians will cut over. But until that point in time, while you are submitting pools through the new pool delivery module, the document custodians will continue to final certify those pools in our in GinnieNet. Okay, so no changes for the custodians at this point in time. Okay. So a couple of other things. I see a couple other questions in here. I'm going to go ahead and continue with the presentation, and I promise to come back to you. Okay. Although I will stop and say that yes, Mortgage Cadence is quite familiar with what's happening in this space. We have a team that's reaching out to all of the known vendors, and we have a regular list of who we contact and work with to make sure that the vendors that are providing you your PDDs, for those of you that use a third-party vendor, that they are ahead of the curve and well aware. We've been communicating with them for months into years at this point. Okay, next slide. Okay, so here's some other important information about the transition to Sfpdm. Okay, so pools, we need to talk to you, and we'll cover this one again when we release the application. While we understand that not every issuer is going to have a MISMO compliant pool delivery data set available and ready for pool issuance when we release the application in April, it does not prevent that issuer from accepting or buying a pool transfer at issuance pool in Sfpdm. So any pools that are initiated for transfer in Sfpdm will need to be accepted in Sfpdm. Okay, so if you are an issuer who's thinking in the back of your head, we'll wait until the very last minute to adopt Sf Pdm. I don't need to pay attention to what she's saying right now. You might. Because if you are doing business, any pool transfers, any pit ties with issuers, sellers that are doing that, initiating those transactions through Sfpdm, you're going to need to accept them in Sfpdm. So regardless of where you are at in your pool delivery data set development, you need to be conscious and aware of what's happening in this space, be prepared to navigate the application, which is extremely intuitive and much more transparent than Ginnie Mae. So you're going to want to be in this application. But I just need you to know that you still need to be listening, because if you are participating in pit transactions as a buyer, you will need to accept any pits that are initiated through Sfpdm. Okay. If the seller initiates the transaction through Ginnie Mae, you will accept the transaction in Ginnie Mae. Okay. But if the seller initiates the transaction through Sfpdm, you will have to accept in Sfpdm. All right. The next thing I need you to know, and I see that this question's already in the chat, RG and ET pool types will not be supported in Sfpdm immediately upon release of the application. Okay, we will be releasing the application in the end of April, but we will not have RG and ET plugged in until probably the end of the year. Okay, and what I am hearing, we do have issuers that are already pooling in Sfpdm, a small select group that has provided us some fantastic feedback about the tool. One of the things that I have heard from the issuer who does do RG pool type is that they would much prefer to have access to Sfpdm and conduct business and pooling, the pooling transactions that they can via Sfpdm, and revert to Ginnie Mae for the limited occasions in which they do the reperforming loan or extended term loan pool types. Okay, so if you are an issuer that does occasionally or even regularly, although I don't think anybody does it regularly, but that you occasionally do issue the RG or ET pool types, you should consider making the transition to Sfpdm as early as possible, because you're going to reap the rewards, even though those two pool types won't be in for a few months after the initial release of the application. Okay. So what else do we need to know? Changes to pool attestation workflow. So you will notice, I think many of you have noticed that when we did introduce new pool types, we did add a pool attestation workflow in Ginnie Mae. There is an attestation process that will remain in Ginnie Mae. So if you are pooling in Ginnie Mae, you'll still see that. You will also see an attestation workflow that's slightly different, but meets the same objective when you get to Sfpdm. Okay, so just wanted to make you aware that that's happening, and through that attestation workflow, the 11705 and 11706 will be generated in both Ginnie Mae and Sfpdm. You can use the forms from either system as the document of record. Okay. So either form will be acceptable as the document of record. Next slide. So what happens next? Okay, what we need you to do is we need you to review the available resources. It's been, probably a year and a half going on 2 years that we released the initial pool delivery data set implementation guide. That PDD guide has been maintained and updated on the Ginnie Mae website on the modernization page. There's resources in the appendices that assist you in building that pool delivery data set and understanding the pool delivery data set and the MISMO elements. That information is on the website in the same place that it has been for more than a year now. Okay, so if you were not focused on this effort before that January 31st, 8 p.m., you can go back to that webpage and find that information now. Okay, using those resources, you can develop a pool delivery data set if that is applicable to you. If you're a manual entry issuer, you can continue to do manual entry once you get into Sfpdm without having to deliver a develop a pool delivery data set. Okay, so if you should begin to, if you are an issuer that's used the file layout to upload pools into GinnieNet, you're going to need to engage your IT teams, any software vendors that you work with, to prioritize the development of that pool delivery data set so that you can begin to use Sfpdm when it's released. Okay. Once you have a data set developed, you can test it. That is exactly what the validation and testing tool is for. You have access to the VTT right now. If you are someone who needs access to the validation and testing tool, but you don't have responsibility for other pooling functions in your organization, you can reach out to the organization administrators at your organization and ask them to assign you the VTT functional role in My Ginnie Mae, so that you can still access that tool and test any data sets that you're developing to make sure that they pass our business rules. Okay, and doing all of this and doing it timely will ensure that when we release Sfpdm in April, you'll be able to begin pooling in Sfpdm and taking advantage of a really user-friendly tool that we've created to make pooling a little bit easier for everyone. Okay, I've got a couple of resources listed here of folks that you can contact if you need help. As you are reviewing that PDD implementation guide, and as you are trying to build that data set, as you are testing that data set in the validation and testing tool, you're gonna want to reach out to the Ginnie Mae MISMO support mailbox. Okay, that Ginnie Mae MISMO support at HUD.gov is going to be your best resource. Or you can give them a call using our centralized help desk number, and that is the option 3, then option 6. Okay. Now, once we get into Sfpdm, and if you have questions about assigning the VTT functional role, you need to contact Ginnie Mae 1 at bnymellon.com. Okay, via our centralized service desk number, that is going to be option 1, then option 1. All right. So just trying to, help navigate you to the most efficient folks that can answer your questions. And so that's who you would need to call. Let me go to questions. And Nicole, anyone that would like to ask a question over the phone line, Nicole, can you show me the next slide and remind me of what buttons they need to hit? Here we go. If you dialed in from your computer today, you can raise your hand at the bottom of the window to ask a question out loud. If you dialed in from a phone line, please press *9 to let us know that you would like to ask a question. And you are always welcome to type in the Q&A. And I see we already have some questions there, so I'm going to jump over and start answering those while other folks decide whether they want to talk to me. So, do you expect RG and ET pools to be pool types to be migrated to Sfpdm by July? Oh yeah, definitely, Joan, definitely. The RG and ET pool types are the next enhancement to go in. I think you guys may have heard me mention that we are undergoing, a significant effort to migrate our data center to the cloud. This is some really exciting and very important work. And once we have done that, we will have a clear path to add the ET and RG pool types. So that's the only thing that we are waiting on. So as soon as that has happened, we will queue up that enhancement. Okay, so definitely before July of 2023, you will be accessing RG and ET via Sfpdm. Okay. Sarah, okay, once this goes live, will we still access the 05 and 06 from GinnieNet, or will you use Sfpdm? So you can use either one. During the transition window, when you have access to both GinnieNet and Sfpdm, you can retrieve the 05 and the 06 from either system, and they will both work as the document of record. Okay, now once we cut off your access to GinnieNet, Net, you will have to retrieve those forms via Sfpdm. But during the adoption window, you'll have the option to use either system to retrieve the 05 and 06 forms. Okay.
Letitia, before we move on from that
yeah.
question, Sarah, a little further down, noted that she's specifically on the servicing side. So getting access to those forms. Constantine, I don't know if you want to speak to the need for the functional roles in order to access those forms in Sfpdm, but it's all functional role based, Sarah, for your access.
Right. Yeah, it would be a read-only view for somebody on the servicing side or the sub-servicing. And then once those forms are created, you know, they're sort of live and updated a few times throughout the life of the pool. But someone with the sub-servicing access, the read-only access, will be able to download the forms.
Okay. Sarah, did that answer your question? You're welcome to raise your hand or type in the chat if you have a follow-on question. Okay. Not seeing, okay, got it. Thanks, Sarah. Okay, going back up to the top. Christina, you were asked for guidance on how to convert the XML pools. Okay, anything more posted? Constantine, I think you've been working on this one, right? The XML pool files.
To clarify, Constantine, before jumping in, this is Christina, you are looking to pull down the actual pool and loan data, and in Sfpdm that downloads as an XML file, as that's the way that the data is uploaded. So I think that just to clarify, I think to ask Letitia, I think since Sfpdm produces those files in XML, I think Christina is saying, hey, we don't deal in XML. Christina, I assume that means you all manually import your loans. So,
Christina, we can hear you. You can go ahead and unmute.
Unmute. Okay, you can hear me? All right, thank you for opening up my line. Yes, so in looking at the XML files for the pooled data after the loans are pooled and certified, I just don't even know how to present that to IT to ask them to work out a way for us to convert it into Excel so we can use the data, because we use it every day. We rely on that heavily. And I just don't even know how to bring it to IT to say this needs to be converted. It's just very new to me, and I was hoping to get a guidance from Ginny about how we do this. How do we do this? Because right now in GinnieNet, they're text files, and of course we have conversions for that. I don't know about the XML, or does it have to go in a database first? I just don't know how to bring it to IT.
Yep. Christina, we heard your concern, and Brad, correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought we developed FAQ around this.
Yes, it doesn't specify conversion tools. I don't think, and I'm not sure if we're prepared to speak to what tools or services allow you to map the XML back to the flat file. But Christina, I guess a couple things I would note is during this 18 months, you'll be able to access that flat file in GinnieNet for these pools submitted through Sfpdm. And Constantine, tell me if I'm incorrect there. But in the meantime, the the information that Ginnie Mae puts on ginniemay.gov under the modernization initiatives for Sfpdm has the pool delivery set implementation guide, which shows how the XML elements are mapped back to the legacy GinnieNet fields. So when you say bring it to your IT group and how to do that, there's a specific Appendix D, D as in dog, that shows, hey, these are all the elements and how they are set up in XML, and this is what they map to from the legacy standpoint.
Okay, I will check that out. Appendix D.
Yeah, I just want to second what Brad said from the BNYM side, and that's correct. And I think ultimately, the flat file as a method of uploading pool data is ultimately gonna be retired. So I think over this 18 months, like the guidance would be to start converting to and from the XML version, which is industry standard, MISMO industry standard.
Okay.
And Christina, we can have more of a conversation if you have more pointed questions to the Ginnie Mae MISMO support mailbox too.
Okay, thank
Nicole,
you.
can you roll back one slide for us? Okay.
Yes,
All right. Christina, anything else before we move on to the next question?
can you hear me?
Can hear you now.
Okay, I wasn't sure. I keep seeing that I was muted again, so I wasn't sure. No, I will take a screenshot of this for the contact, and then I will check out the Appendix D in the modernization section and see if I can understand that. Yes, so I realize I do understand we still have access to the GinnieNet files. I just want to make sure we get working on that with IT for when the day comes that that text file is no longer available.
All right, we appreciate that. Okay, so moving on to the next question. I think I covered this one, but is there an expected timeline for GinnieNet's retirement? And once it retires, will all pools processed in GinnieNet be migrated to Sfpdm? To view an extract, is there a specific month/year that is only allowed to view an Sfpdm? So our transition plan to get completely out of GinnieNet is yet to be published. So it's not anything that we are able to communicate any details on at the moment. But once again, just to clarify what's happening in July of 2023 at a high level, the pooling functions in GinnieNet will disappear. Okay, we're not committing that everything in GinnieNet will disappear. So the transition out of GinnieNet, we will provide more detail and color on as we get a little bit further into the effort. But when we give you that July 2023 timeline, we are specifically talking about pooling functions. And we will have a transition plan for the data that's in GinnieNet by the time we get to that point to share with you. Not saying we don't have a plan, I'm saying we don't have a plan that we are socializing at this point. Okay. Let's see, once GinnieNet is sunsetted, I like that word, how would we view loan information that was submitted in GinnieNet? Yes, so again, same response. We're actually, managing the same item for MFPDM and our multifamily issuers. Our strategy to sunset GinnieNet is something that is related, but part of a separate conversation from the rollout of Sfpdm. So as we have more details and information from the team that's responsible for that, we will share it with you via the modernization outreach calls, but nothing to share right now regarding the Sfpdm adoption effort. Okay. Are we able to ship extended term pools currently? Yeah, yes, in GinnieNet. Yes, you are able to issue ET pools in GinnieNet. I believe we introduced that functionality in January of this year, Sheila. So you should be able to issue those in GinnieNet. Okay.
Letitia, Chelsea Hansen has their arm up.
Okay. Chelsea, where are you at?
You can unmute yourself now.
Chelsea, you have to unmute your own line, your own, microphone at this point. Chelsea, it looks like you're still on mute. Okay. So looks like maybe your hand went up by accident. We'll go ahead and move on. Let us know if you have a question that you need to chime in and ask us. Okay. Okay. Sheila. Okay. I already covered that one. Let's see here. Peggy, are you able to access the old 05 and 06 forms, some that you created several years ago? Yeah, so Peggy, that again, that's we've got another team that's working on that transition to, from GinnieNet to Sfpdm, or I'm sorry, to sunset GinnieNet. And I don't know what the plan will be for those old 05 and 06 forms. It may be that at some point we will tell you that you need to download them and archive them to a local drive. But I can't really speak on that right now, Peggy. It's not a part of the plans from the Sfpdm team to roll out the application. So I can't really definitively say how you will access those forms. Okay. But I'm sure it's on the radar for that team, and I'll dig in when we get closer to that point in time so that I can offer you more detail on one of our mod calls. All right. Bud, will Sfpdm enable an issuer to recall a pool after submitting? What? In the event that an error is discovered. Constantine, do you want to give us a little bit of an update on some of the new features that they're going to see in Sfpdm, like what Bud's talking about here?
Yes. I mean, but I think the recall is something that's sort of, consistent with what's currently available. But yes, so I mean, the short answer to Bud's questions is yes, they'll be able to recall, up to a certain point in the process. I think it's after the doc custodian certifies, then that, that would prevent the recall, but yes.
Anything else you want to highlight for us that they can expect to see in Sfpdm that they're going to be happy about?
Oh, okay, sure. Well, just in general, yes, it's improved user interface, a lot of searching and filter functionality, and easy way to determine, where each pool is at which workflow step each pool is, and just a one place where all the forms are. I think in GinnieNet it might be across a few screens, but in Sfpdm it's in one easily referenced spot as well. Yeah, and then just improvements, everything that GinnieNet has, plus more improvements.
Thank you. All right, let me move on. I don't see any hands up. You are still welcome to raise your hand if you'd like to ask a question. I'm sorry, over audio. So the next question that I have, Natasha, when will the expanded codes be available? Are they being used now in GinnieNet? And so Natasha, I'm gonna do a little interpretation here. So you mean the pool types, right? The new RG and ET pool types is what I think that you're talking about. And yes, those are available in GinnieNet right now. If that's not the question you were asking, can you please resubmit so I make sure that we get you the answer to the question that you're asking? Okay. Kenneth. As a lender, I'm going to need to make sure all of our servicers on PIT relationships are able to handle the new 05 and 06 exports before we start, ? Am I going to need to ensure that they can handle? There should not be a significant challenge for anyone to navigate PIT transactions in Sfpdm. We actually had the scenario where during early adoption, an issuer initiated a PIT in Sfpdm, and the buyer was not paying attention because they weren't ready to begin submitting pools in Sfpdm. And after one quick phone call, they were able to go in and accept that pool and download the information that they needed. There was actually, it was pretty seamless, even for someone who had not been trained on the system to manage those transactions. So based on the fact that it's very intuitive and that 05 and 06 is available in both GinnieNet and Sfpdm, I don't think that you're going to see any significant challenges or a need to do any specific outreach and coordination other than to make sure that if you are a seller that's transacting a PIT in Sfpdm or a tie in Sfpdm, that you're making sure that your buyers are aware that you're doing that through the new system. That did not answer your question. Brad, I see you coming off mute.
Yeah, if I can interpret too, I think when we say 11, 705 and 06, a lot of times we mean the forms, the PDF forms, but I know a lot of our issuers, when they say the 05 and 06, they mean the data export. So I think, Kenneth, if I'm reading your question, you're saying, hey, my servicers are going to need to handle this new XML export, and you're wondering if you need to have that clarification before you start. Is that?
Yeah, it sounded to me also like Ken was asking that as a side, but I would say I would refer to what was mentioned maybe 5-10 minutes ago regarding, that the flat file export will be available through GinnieNet. At that point of the transfer anyway. So that will ease the transition, but ultimately, yes, I mean, any activity within Sfpdm pools in terms of exporting is reliant upon, XML. That's the format that the export occurs. And I think ultimately, again, over the 18-month window, each organization would need to sort of, be able to connect and interpret the XML format.
Yep. So just to close that out, Kenneth, for your servicers, they'll have access to both for the time being, but like we recommended to Christina, the Appendix D on the PDD implementation guide shows that mapping of how the XML elements relate back to the legacy GinnieNet, and then Appendix F does the reverse, so it shows the GinnieNet elements mapped to the XML, the PDD XML. So I would recommend getting that information to them if they don't have it.
Okay. I'm going to move on to our next question. I see from Natasha, I didn't answer your prior question appropriately. You were asking about the RFS expanded codes for removal. Those are not published and available yet. Dan is giving you a preview of what's to come, but the RFS expanded data elements are not in GinnieNet at this time. Dan, is there anything else you wanted to say on that?
No, I think that's about it. Well, just let me add, we will have all these recent codes in the APM, but Letitia's right. It's not yet in the Ginnie, in their, is it GinnieNet, Letitia?
Yes.
GinnieNet, it's not there yet at this point in time.
Okay, going up to the question from Dan. April is when we're going to give you more information on those soft tokens. Anyone who's an existing RSA token holder is going to be contacted by a support team regarding your token and what you need to do to transition to the soft token. So there will be a transition period where we'll give you specific information about how to download the application and get yourself ready for when we turn on those new soft tokens. But those new soft tokens aren't expected to be available for use, meaning you won't be using them live in our systems until closer to August. But we will be communicating with you in April to start getting you ready for the soft token, the RSA token transition. Okay. And Christopher King, what will be the effect on recertifications? The effect of transitioning to Sfpdm on recerts, Constantine?
I'm not aware of any change in that process, but if there's anything, we could take it away and get back to Christopher.
Okay, sounds good. I'm going to jump over to the chat because there's another one from Margaret. Will the 11.7.11a process be done electronically through Sfpdm or will it remain the same? I haven't heard any conversation on this. Constantine, do you have anything to offer in this space?
No, I haven't heard anything either. Nope.
Okay, yeah, Margaret, that's another one we're going to have to take back and get some more information. We haven't, the 11.7.11a hasn't been on our radar in relationship to the transition to Sfpdm. So we'll do a little more digging and see if there's something else to be said about that, okay? Shannon, will the new Sfpdm be able to import a higher volume of loans at once? Constantine, how would you answer this question?
Yes. I mean, we have, it will be. I mean, we have done some volume testing that's even, higher than what has been performed in GinnieNet across any program type.
Yeah. So Shannon, it is going to be a web-based application. It is going to be more efficient, and we are actually working to do some additional enhancements to make it even faster before we release it, which is why we don't have it in hand to you today. So I think you're going to be very, very pleased with what you're going to get in Sfpdm and the processing times. John, is there a list? You're welcome, Shannon. Is there a list of technology vendor? Oh, the LOS vendors that we are working with. So you're specifically looking for ICE Mortgage Technologies and Compass 360 software. Okay, Brad, the answer?
The answer, if we're talking specifically ICE and Encompass 360, is yes, we are working with them and they are progressing nicely on their PDD. We recommend for a detailed status to reach out to your contact there at ICE or Ellie. We do have a full list of those that we are in contact with. I don't think we have it to show right now, but we always show that on our PDD and Sfpdm listening sessions. And we can certainly go over it there, or if you reach out to our mailbox, we can provide more detail.
For John and the other person, I'm sorry, I forgot who it was that asked about vendor contacts. This Ginnie Mae the Ginnie Mae MISMO support at HUD.gov email box is the one you're going to want to contact for more information about the LOS vendors that we're working with and how you can reach out to them. Okay. So hopefully that answers all the questions. We're a little bit past time, but I thought that it was important for us to try and navigate all the questions that were coming in.
Tisha, there was one
Yes.
other in the chat that I think we might have skipped over to get to Margaret's. There's
sorry.
one. Is there an opportunity to have pit
Oh.
pools accepted the same way they're submitted in GinnieNet, i.e. you're able to select them from a list instead of typing in the individual pool numbers? And that one I think will pass to Constantine.
Yes, yes. I mean, there will be for any pools, pending acceptance, the authorized buyer or the authorized signer of the buyer issuer, once they log into my Ginnie Mae, there's going to be a widget on your first sort of page, which we call it my dashboard. There'll be a widget, listing all the pools that are pending the buying issuer's acceptance.
Okay, thank you for not letting me miss that one. I saw it and forgot to come back to it. So any other questions before we break for the day? As a reminder, we will be posting the recording. The presentation is already on the Ginnie Mae website, and we love hearing from you. So please do use these support mailboxes if you need assistance. Reach out to Dan Botto at daniel.botto@hud.gov if you have questions, follow-on questions for that RFS expanded data elements. And as always, cxg@hud.gov. If you have anything that you would like to share with me, about anything, really, yeah, I'll like to hear it. cxg@hud.gov. Thank you so much, you guys. I appreciate you guys participating, giving us an opportunity to share this information with you, asking questions, and being active participants. And we will do it again in April. All right. Have a good one.